Good afternoon. It's working. That's the first start. Okay, so my name is Ruth. I'm going to be talking today about the way that we go through our process of developing new collections from the very beginning of the process right through to when we get to the design stage. So you might have heard that we're on the precipice of an AI revolution. The world is run these days by big data, which most of us don't know how to use, and everything we use every day is written in languages of code that most of us wouldn't understand and definitely don't know how to read or write. So I've heard a lot of people saying that the robots are going to take over. I'm sure you've heard of the Internet of Things. There's a big talk about our houses becoming more connected, about our fridges knowing when we need more pasta, about our hoovers doing the hoovering automatically when they can sense more dust in the house. And I hope the robots aren't taking over, but I've also heard a lot of people, maybe the same people, saying that creatives are going to be the last people to go to the robots. They may just mean that we're the last people to go to the beach. Who knows? So what I'm going to talk about today is how in this busier world of social influences and influencers, Instagram, online sales, international same-day shipping, how we can create product ranges that continue to resonate, continue to be relevant, and appeal to 1 million customers as audiences of one. And by that I mean that everybody has become an individual these days, and we can no longer give the same blanket message to 1 million people. We have to be able to talk to our customers as though each one is an individual. So I'm going to talk to you today about how we do that at made.com. So we've heard a lot about fake news thanks to Donald Trump. I'm not really a fan. I'm more on the fact side. And the first thing that we do when we start thinking about our new collections at Made is thinking about the data. So we're really lucky in a business like ours, partly because we are digital, we're online, but just generally because we're quite a big business, we have got a lot of data available to us. So the first thing that we do is, excuse me, I just have to press play so I know how long I'm talking for. The first thing that we do is we analyze our design style performance. So at made.com, we split our collection into 5 different design styles. Each single product that we launch has got a design style assigned to it. And that means that when we look over the data, we can look over data assigned to different design styles. It means that we can see, for the past period, what has worked well and what hasn't. We can see which design style we've got lots of products in, but actually each product isn't really performing. And we can see which design styles we really don't have that many products in, and actually each product is working really hard, and we could do more of that. We can also think about what we consider we want to be a core part of our identity. So we want to be a modern brand. So we might say, okay, we definitely want to make sure that we're developing 60% of our modern styles and maybe 40% of our more traditional or retro styles. We can also use past sales data to help us look at things like color. So every single product that we have has got a color assigned to it, and we can look at the data around which colors are performing well, which colors aren't performing well. And we can also look at the trending graphs, so we can see which things are on the up, and we can see which things have had their time. So data is really interesting and really useful to us. We have a big team of merchandisers and buyers indeed, and we spend a lot of time looking at the data at the beginning of the process. I think one of the difficult things is taking this absolutely huge amount of data and understanding how we can condense it into the most important messages that we're seeing. But we work together at the beginning of the process and decide what those key messages are. So, for example, recently we've said, we don't have enough industrial product, but people are loving it. It's selling really, really well. And we've also looked at our Nordic products and said, we've got absolutely loads of Nordic-styled product in our collection, but actually some of it just isn't working hard enough for us. So that's some of the messages that we can get out of our past data. The next thing is SEO, search engine optimization. This is another one of the things that I've heard is taking over the world. I might have heard it from our SEO manager, but I think I believe him. These days, if you're digital native, and even if you're not, if you have a website at all, being able to appear in the front page of a search is extremely important, and that is really our shop front for made.com. So we work a lot with the SEO guys in our business to find out what people are searching for at particular times of year. So I know, for example, that in November, it is the peak search month for chaise longues. I don't know if you knew that, but obviously when people are thinking about reclining with their Christmas brandy, they're thinking about buying a velvet chaise longue. It's also obvious that, for example, in the early spring and through later spring, people are searching for outdoor furniture and outdoor accessories, and as we come into the autumn, that completely drops off. What that helps us to do is, if we're planning an autumn season, we can look at what we call our SEO heat map. We can see the particular products that are really trending through the season, and we can create a little collection and say, well, these are all the products that we're going to build into our collection that we're launching in September, October. So kids furniture is a big search in September. Office furniture becomes very popular in October, November. So that's how we can use SEO to really help us understand what people will be searching for online at what times. Now, I know that not everybody has access to great SEO people, particularly if you're in a smaller business or working for yourself. But there are places that you can go to help you learn about that. So, for example, there's an organization called Decoded, and they run amazing courses and programs for individuals and for businesses to help you understand some of the terminology and the ways that you can work with some of the emerging and new digital tech. So the next thing is social trends. Obviously, everybody knows that Instagram is massive, and it's one of the things that we really look to help us understand what people are looking for. So we can look at Instagram. We also can look at Pinterest. And Pinterest are one of those amazing businesses that really use their data to also help them understand their trends. So one of the fascinating things, I think, is to look at every year, or at least at the beginning of this year, Pinterest published their top 100 things for 2018, and it was really data driven. So they could say, okay, searches for Mexico have gone up by X% from last year. And you know that on Pinterest, people are getting really interested in looking at that stuff. And that's the stuff that fairly soon, if they're looking at it on Pinterest, they're going to be wanting to buy it in the shops. So some of those things that we get they're open source. Anyone can find that. It's online. Pinterest Top 100 for 2018 is really useful. So it told me, for example, that mixed metals was up 423% in searches on Pinterest. Instagram is also useful. There's even businesses that have based their entire business model on Instagram. So there's a new fashion business called Choosy, and they basically look at things that are getting the most likes on Instagram, and they're building collections of fashion and clothing that is based on pictures that have the most likes. So they're doing something which is really quickly responding to absolutely what is popular and trending now and building an entire business model on it. So the next thing I would say is the true creators. We've talked about what the data trends can tell us. We've talked about what the past data says. Now I think about the things that are the really kind of creative things that are coming out. And this is where we get our inspiration, the things that are really exciting that make our hearts beat faster. So that's the things like going to trade fairs, going to design shows, going to Milan, for example, or potentially just shopping. We have a headquarters in London, and we have lots and lots of young, vibrant people in the office, and we get a lot of inspiration just through living our lives. So we can use going out to an amazing restaurant with friends as an excuse for work research, or going to gigs, concerts. I think living life and living the life that your customers are living really helps you just know what is the zeitgeist, and you assimilate it all. And somehow you have to spew it out at the end as something that's meaningful and making sense. But, reading magazines, all of those things just helps you to get a full, rounded feel for what people are doing, what people are interested in. Google. Google is obviously the world's biggest search engine. I don't know if you know that YouTube is actually the second biggest search engine, which I was amazed to hear recently. And we don't all have our own search engines that we can go to, but actually at Made we're very lucky because in some ways we do have our own search engine. So we get people coming to our site and searching all the time for things. I think we get something like 6,000 individual searches a day. And that's 6,000 bits of information of what people are looking for. Particularly interesting in a way are the things that are dead-end searches for us. So we can come up with all of the search terms and the areas of interest that people have been searching for on our site, but haven't actually found anything because we're not doing it yet. And that can help us understand some of the things that people are wanting. And we can also start to build graphs and search trend data that helps us understand what people are looking for and what people have stopped looking for as well, where the searches are going down. So sometimes that's seasonal, as I said. Sometimes, for example, at the moment we have seen a massive surge in searches for velvet, and that has then translated into sales of velvet sofas and other velvet things. At the moment we're racking our brains to think about what more products we could make in velvet. So if anyone has any amazing ideas for the best velvet products, let me know. And I know again that not everybody has access to their own search engine, but Google has some amazing tools that you can use. So Google Trends, which I've actually only recently been introduced to, is a really great way that you can see for different geographic areas within the UK or over Europe, different areas, what searches are trending. So you can put in various different search terms such as leather, velvet, cotton, linen, and you can select the area. So you can select homes and interiors, and it can show you the graphs of how big those search terms are compared to each other, and it will also show you the movement of those search terms over time. And that's again an open source piece of information from Google, and it's the way that Google are allowing people like us to use their big data to just have a look at what people are searching for, and it can be really useful. It can also waste loads of your time, and you can go into a total rabbit hole of searching down Google Trends, but I would recommend that you check that out. So, you might not have thought that coming to a talk about trends, I would start off the first part of it talking about data. But as I said, we're a digital native retailer. We started online, and everything we do, the way that we think, is absolutely rooted in being online. But even if that is not the way your business started, or even if you're a bricks and mortar store, it's really, really important that you think more and more like a digital native business, because anybody that has a website is effectively digitally native, and they have to treat their website as another storefront and use all of the tools available to you in order to make that storefront as attractive as it can be. So, looking 12 to 18 months into the future to get our trends, we've got all of our information, we've looked at the data, we've assimilated it all, we've condensed it down into the key important messages that we hope are the right ones to come from all of the data. The next thing is translating that in a way that is relevant for the Made.com customer. So, we have spent quite a lot of time trying to understand our own brand and our own business. And I think whether you're a big business or a small business, it is one of the most important things that you can do to make sure that the products that you're launching resonate and are ultimately commercial for the people that you're aiming them at. So knowing why people are shopping with you, having a stab at thinking what people think of you and why they love you is really important. It's really great to write it down so that you can keep coming back to it and remember when you're choosing new products, why it is that you think those new products are going to resonate with your customer. So the first thing that we think about Made.com is that Made.com is relevant. It's relevant to our customers, and the young urban people and not so young but young at heart urban people who are buying our products want to feel that we are relevant to the way that they are thinking. We address real customer needs, we make our products well considered and relevant, and we create them with thought. We are bold and surprising. This is one of the things that we consider our USP, our unique selling point. It's a key identifier for us and for our products. We like to surprise our customers with unexpected pieces, with daring collaborations, because we do a lot of design collaborations, and we want them to be exciting and playful and surprising, and we want them to be things that make our customers stop a bit and say, whoa, that's good. The next thing is that we're a design brand, and that is really important to us. We are a design brand, and each design is a standalone piece, even if it's part of a collection. It enables our customers to curate and create their own life at home. A lot of what we do is designer collaborations, so 25 or 30% of what we do are designer collaborations. And that's really key, not just for getting all of those interesting, daring, and exciting products into the mix, but also for letting our customers know that we continue to create original and unique designs, and that people are getting designer products, and they know that because it's created by a designer whose face and name they can see. We are different by design, and this is our rallying cry, really. So we know that our collection has a modern outlook and that it's not ordinary. Our customers want to feel that they're getting something different. So even when we make things that are classic, they have a modern outlook and they have a sense of identity that is recognizably made.com, be that because it's got an interesting, bold, surprising finish, or because of the material that we put on it, or even sometimes just because of the way that we style and curate the collection. The other thing that's really important and that we've done a bit of work on is really understanding our customer. So there's a few things that we know about our customer that go along with what we know are our brand identifiers for our product. We know that our customer is design savvy. They're somebody who's a confident decorator, and they're comfortable selecting an eclectic mix of products to curate their own space at home. And I mentioned briefly before, we work to 5 different design styles at made.com, but we consider ourselves to have a single brand identity. So we think about our 5 design styles as orbiting the single Made universe. And we think that our customers are comfortable people in order to sit in the middle of the Made universe and pick out different products from different styles to curate their own eclectic mix. And that's how we enable our customers to feel that each one of them is being spoken to as an audience of one within 1 million people. So we can have an absolutely vast audience, but each person really creates their own identity by selecting from this eclectic mix of styles that we have. Their home is an expression of their individuality. So they're an individual, and I mean, in the same way that everybody chooses their clothes, and most people, I think, consider the way that they dress to be an expression of themselves, increasingly, and probably thanks to things like Instagram and our more visual culture that we have now, people consider their home to be that as well. So their home is really an extension of their own personal presentation, and they consider it a reflection of their own personality. The next thing is that we have a modern outlook, and I've spoken about this as well. Our customer likes something out of the ordinary. They like something surprising, and they like something that has a sense of fun. So we try to reflect that in the products that we create. And lastly, our customer is an urbanite. Not all of our customers live in cities, but the vast proportion of them do. And even the people that don't have a kind of urban mindset, and that means that they are dynamic people. They are space conscious because probably they're living in smaller spaces than you would if you lived outside of a big city. And they like things fast paced, and they like things convenient. And I think that's a bit of a reflection of the fact that we're an online business. So that's a bit about us. So you've heard about how we assimilate our information, about how we think about everything that we've seen, how we think about the data in order to create an idea of the structure that we want behind a new collection. I've talked a bit about us as an identity because it's really important that when we take all of that information and then we layer it onto our own collection, that it matches very closely with the identity that we have as a business and what we know our customers want. So the next thing is how we then mash all that up into something that makes sense as seasonal trends. So at Made.com, we do launch things seasonally, but ultimately we launch every week. We used to say in the old days that we launched 2 collections a week, but I think more accurately these days we launch about 50 products every week. Apart from it being a lot of work, and I'm fairly sure it's why I'm turning grey, it's a rolling launch. We don't really work seasonally like some of the other big bricks and mortars retailers. We don't do a single seasonal drop. I think more than anyone else, we're responding absolutely to the week-by-week launch needs at different times of year. So that it means that if we absolutely know that there's a key point of 3 or 4 weeks in the year where people really, really want to buy blankets, we're going to be launching all of our blankets just in time for them to be searching and finding those products. I've talked a bit about our design style. So when we do launch trends, what's really important for us is that what we launch is layered onto our existing 5 design styles, and that they create an evolution of our existing brand identity. We don't want them to feel like trends that have come from here and from here. We want people to feel comfortable that what we're launching, although it reflects a trend, it's an evolution of what they've already seen from made.com. And that's also important because it has to last in the collection. We don't launch things for a short period of time. So when we launch something, our expectation is that it will stay in our collection for as long as people want to buy it. And the way that we make our collection look relevant at any one time is by being very clever about the things that we launch as seasonal products, and also just about the way that we package it up, because ultimately we'll package it as a lovely spring product, but it will remain in our collection all through the year, so it has to sell in November as well as it sells in May. So just thinking more specifically about spring. So some of the data that we saw when we started looking at what design styles were selling well was that we needed some more modern furniture. And we've also looked around a bit and seen that there's been a real resurgence for 90s styles. So one of the things that we're looking at, and the reason why I have this beautiful Calvin Klein model on screen, is because we're looking at, for spring 2019, we're looking at a 90s resurgence. But we're looking at a 90s resurgence in a way that's going to work for made.com. So we're layering it onto our modern design style. We're thinking about Calvin Klein minimalism from the 90s. We're thinking about Now and Zen. We're thinking about doing modern designs in light wood. And we're thinking about layered textiles and looking at semi-plain textiles, the way that they layer, very inspired by Calvin Klein from the 90s and Calvin Klein from today. We're also looking at craft glazes on ceramics. We're looking at building natural craft into our collection so that we can really build a sense of the 90s styles that are becoming very popular at the moment in a way that is quite neutral and evergreen for made.com. And by evergreen, I mean always on, something that will last. As well as using our seasonal trends as an evolution of our core identity, we also use them as a vehicle with which to launch trends at the right time when they're most in demand. So just as an example, when I'm talking about 90s, I'm sure you've seen lots of pictures of people that look exactly like Kurt Cobain from the 90s. So in fashion, we've seen a lot of oversized tartan shirts and mom jeans, which I think are exactly lifted right from the 90s. Another one of those things is tartan that's been very popular. But for us, we don't really want to just say, wow, tartan is really cool, let's launch it because it seems really popular. It would stand out and it wouldn't really work. So as well as knowing that we want to layer something onto our modern design style, we're also using that 90s direction to be able to build some trend elements into the collection. So we're building some new tartan styles into the collection for spring 2019, but in a way that we think resonates both with the idea of the layered textures and the 90s minimalism, and in a way that when people ask us what are the 10 big trends for 2019, we can say, well, wow, we're doing tartan, it's a big trend. But hopefully it will be evergreen, and hopefully it will sit very comfortably with the collection and not feel like it stands out like a sore thumb. One of the other things that we've been very inspired by, and I mentioned it earlier, is that Pinterest told us that Mexico has been very popular in searches. I don't know if you've heard, but the V&A have a really exciting exhibition on Frida Kahlo at the moment. And generally around and about, we've heard that Mexico is really hot right now, not just in temperature. So for spring 2019, for our outdoor collections, we're looking at Mexican inspirations. But we're finding a way and a vehicle to use these in a way that sit on our design styles. So I mentioned earlier, for example, that we've looked at our industrial design style and realized that we don't have that much industrial stuff, but people really, really love it. So we're creating an industrial Mexico story for 2019. We're building a core base of industrial furniture, and on top of it, we're layering some really exciting patterns and colors, and particularly for high summer, when we're talking about picnic and outdoor, we're building a strong Mexican story into the collection. So particularly, Mexico is obviously great for outdoor, and one of the things is with using trends in this way is that we can also use it for the products at the right time. So as well as Mexico being really popular, it's a great one for spring, summer. It's not really one that we would have launched for the autumn, although I'm sure we could have found a way to weave it in there. But using trends is a great way to get in popular stories like Mexico, and it's also a great way to build exciting product at the right time for seasonal product. These are just some of the inspirations that we used. The last thing that we do is we layer on ideas that we've found through all of the future creators that we've seen. So I talked a bit about the creators of the future, and there's obviously the magazines and things, but there's also the trade shows. So we spend a lot of time at shows like New Designers, where some of the emerging designers are showing all of their work. And it's an amazing pool of talent. It's really quite inspiring to see what some of the younger designers are doing. We also recently launched a platform called Talent Lab, which is a crowdfunding platform for new design. We invite designers to upload their designs. Every 2 months we curate a collection of about 30 of these, and we put them online, and we ask people to pledge a deposit for them, and the ones that are most popular we put into production on made.com. And we try to include a lot of this new design inspiration into our collections as well. Because even if we only include it in a small way, it's a way for us to remain exciting and relevant and show that we still have our finger on the pulse of the new things that are coming out. And for us, working with established designers is really important, but working with brand new designers is even more exciting because they just give us an idea of what the future community of design is doing. So what you see on screen here is one of the young designers, Tom Abbas, who we're working with for our Mexican story. So as well as knowing that we want industrial furniture and that we want to use Mexican inspirations, we've taken some designs that we've commissioned directly from a designer that we found at New Designers and building a small capsule collection to add into the wider collection of industrial Mexican furniture and design that we are creating for spring 2019. So that's what spring looks like for us. And that's a little bit of information about the way that we go right from the beginning, from data analysis through to the understanding of our customer, into the real inspiration and taking all of the trends that we find in a way that reflects back to some of the more data-driven information that we start with at the beginning. I hope that some of that can also be useful for you and your businesses at whatever scale you're working at, because there are a lot of resources out there that really help you to delve into the facts and figures behind your products and your business before you start thinking about what exciting new products you think your customers are going to want for the coming seasons. For us, everything that we do has to fit in with our identity, and most importantly, whether it's something inspired by Frida Kahlo or whether it's something from a new designer, we aim to have things in the collection for as long as possible. And the most important thing for us is that when we do seasonal things, it fits into the collection after the seasonal story ends, and in that way we can make the most efficient use of what we do. And I think that's really important for any business, because while you want to reflect trends, you basically want a really strong evergreen collection that helps your business grow and have continuity and also have continuous identity. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any.